Well, hi folks. How the devil are you? Hope you've all had a brilliant week. Hope you had a great day. I'm here with my friend and business partner, Joe, and we're going to be talking tonight about a number of things here. And we come up with a brilliant theme, which we think everybody should get connected with. It's called Business Growth is Not Optional. Now, Joe, before we dive deeper, how the devil are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Having a great week. Feels like it's the start of autumn, which is lovely. And it's a really good time now to be thinking, despite whatever's going on, how can we make the most of the rest of 2020 and start 2021 a little bit stronger? And I think business growth is a way to do that.
Oh, that's a great way, because I think a lot of people, don't they, in terms of what's been going on, think 2020 is out the window, it's all finished, it's all over. But we've got a good 3 months of the year remaining. So, probably a good thing is, certainly if you're in business, to make good use of that 3 months.
Yeah, definitely. Because, we could just wait and see what's going to happen with COVID, wait and see what's going to happen with Brexit arrangements, and wait and see what happens with the economy. But actually, by being sort of proactive, doing what we can and getting in shape from a business perspective and getting really, growth ready and growth focused, I think that can help us. It's much better than sitting back and just waiting to see. We're talking about business growth isn't optional. It's not, because if we don't move forward, then what we'll end up doing is being behind everybody else.
Oh, that's a great point. And I think that's three great, in terms of external factors, which I think would make most people either want to hide under their duvet, get scared, get nervous here. And I think it's quite interesting, isn't it? And I think we're going to share this with the listeners as well, that for ourselves, personally speaking, we've grabbed that advice ourselves. We've just got to the end of our first business growth club, 10 weeks, and we start from the same position in terms of grabbing an idea, moving forward with it. How do you think it's gone, and how do you think the delegates have experienced it?
I've loved working on the Business Growth Club with you. So we collaborated, didn't we? We started to connect and started work on it back in March, late March time, I think it was. And I think it's been a fantastic collaboration. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it, not just working with you, of course, but also working with all the delegates who came through, all the Business Growth Club members. And we did really well, I think, all of us, including the Business Growth Club members, because everybody has progressed really significantly. They've got plans, they've done stuff, they've moved themselves forward in a relatively short time, in only 10 weeks. And also there's that community of people as well.
Absolutely. I think if you think about it, from me and you talking about the idea back in March, and then to get to launch phase, and to actually get it out there and to actually recruit. My memory serves me right, we actually got a full cohort as well, which is really good. And in terms of actually going through that, again, I don't really like the phrase, but I think it serves tonight, going through that journey of idea into execution, actually being able to actually walk that talk as well, I thought was really a positive thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's so important, if there are ideas that are relevant to now, that you can do something with, is for all businesses listening, is to really do what you can to take action and get some momentum. And it's not about being perfect, it's not about getting everything right, but it's about getting everything into really good shape so that you can actually make some progress with your idea, but most importantly, make a difference to the customers that you want to work with and help them.
So Joe, here's the thing, me and you are both convinced about the necessity to do business growth. Loads of businesses out there, from very small scale businesses to sort of, larger beasts as such. They're probably sitting there thinking they don't really have to bother. Their businesses are pretty good, or the climate's too uncertain here. So, what would you do to put forward to persuade businesses that why it's not a nice thing to have, but it's actually a critical thing to actually think in terms of do business growth?
Well, there's always opportunity. There's always opportunity to do better, to help customers even more. And the thing is, if we're complacent, if we're just stagnating in what we're doing as business leaders and business owners, then it means that, firstly, we're not providing the best customer experience and the best service we possibly can. And if we're not doing that, then what we will do is fall behind the competition who do see the potential to do that, who are stepping up and helping customers. And it won't be that we stand still, it'll be that we go backwards, and then there'll be an even bigger gap to fill. But you've been doing a brilliant job all the way through since March of actually keeping businesses really up to date with the latest information, the latest support, the changing scenarios. So what are you seeing in terms of how businesses are responding to all this uncertainty?
That's a great question, and thanks very much for that sort of that thumbs up. I think a number of different things. I think, first of all, the landscape doesn't affect every single business equally. So some businesses, perversely, have actually profited and done well out of the recent turbulence that we've experienced. Secondly, what I've noticed, though, more businesses, and obviously I would say this because it's my space, are thinking more about using their numbers and being more aware of the costs, being more aware of keeping customers happy, and being more aware that actually getting a successful business is not just about being good at what they do, it's about all those other facets. Yeah, there is some anxiety with some people. Some people are more concerned. The braver ones, if I can use that term, the ones who've actually not been like the rabbit in the headlights, have actually just grasped it and said, okay, I need to look what I need to do next, because I don't want to go back to a paid job. I don't fancy doing something else in my career. I like the idea of business here. So it's actually, looking outside of the fog and actually sort of exploring other opportunities. Yes, there's been some casualties, but I think also there's been some successes. And I think that's a really important thing, that businesses don't get overawed by the fact, say, it's crap and therefore I'm just going to put up sticks and stop.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also better for mental health as well. For it can be really stressful, can't it, being an entrepreneur, and particularly with all of the stuff that's going on around us. But actually by taking charge in a way of what we can take charge of and being proactive and driving it forward, I think that's really important, is to keep on keeping on, making a difference, but staying close to all the changes and staying close to the opportunity and challenges as well, and being really realistic about those. So
sorry, go, Jay.
Sorry. So in answer to your question, I don't think business growth is an optional thing, and I don't think it's something that can be put on the back burner just because there's a load of other stuff going on. I realise every business is different, and it is really, really hard for many, many businesses out there. But let's see what we can do to keep moving forward and finding those opportunities.
I agreed, and I think even if we didn't have what we were dealing with now, because this is like an evergreen conversation to some extent, is that even if things were more static, even if things were more prosperous, businesses don't always keep the same clients year on year. Clients go, clients come, you get natural churn, your staff leave, you get different lead suppliers. Nothing is static. Even if you're a monopoly supplier, which is very rare these days unless you're public sector, even you're facing competition and pressures. That means that fast forward 3 months, technology, how people interact, how people buy, is always changing, and you can't rely on a constant universe.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that is constant is change, and I can't remember which philosopher or whoever it was that said that, but it's that one of those ancient sayings, isn't it, that change will always be there. And it's super important, that there is loads of great technology that we can use. These bring loads of benefits to the business as well, that they can make things easier and faster. And I enjoyed the live that you did the other day, and you were talking about cloud accounting. And I have one drawer of paperwork now in my office, because everything is just all digital, and everything happens seamlessly and digitally. It's brilliant. So these changes, can bring lots of time savings, and also they can be very enjoyable as well. But I think it's really important that whatever business and whatever time we're in, it's about thinking, is my business working for me? Is my business, does it make money? So is it a real business? Is it a hobby? And it's about treating it as well as if it's a real business, isn't it?
I fully agree. I think one of the reasons why I love working with you, Joe, is because we're a very similar mindset. We can bring different disciplines and skills, but we see the same thing. I know when we've spoken before, when we launched the Business Growth Club, and when we've been dealing with the delegates, and when we've done what we do in our day jobs as such, we've always felt that what goes on between somebody's ears, that mindset, that attitude to business, is really probably the most critical thing. So what's your thoughts about the part that people's attitudes and cultures and their behaviours in business play in terms of the success they want?
I think it's everything, because we can't control everything that happens to us, but what we can do a lot about is how we choose to respond to what's happening and the choices that we make. So I think actually being able to self-coach is really, really important, and just being very self-aware and knowing what's an emotional decision and what's a sensible business decision is important. And to, we're all emotional at times. That's how we are. We're emotional beings. And really just recognising that and thinking, is this the best time to make this decision right now? Or should I just sleep on it, let it lie, maybe look at some numbers or some other facts to balance it out a little bit and then make a decision. So I think, from an attitude point of view, it's that combination of using entrepreneurial instinct and intuition, and combining that with good data, good facts, and good objective evidence as well, wherever you can get it, that, and hanging those things together to drive forward.
Because on that, because I know obviously one of your fortes amongst many others is innovation, creativity, facilitation here. So what in your own experience have found that are the obstacles, if you can use that term, as to what stops businesses actually, trying to go on a path of growth?
I think they would say, and I've surveyed this, so I've actually got some evidence to support what I'm about to say. They say it's time and they say it's money, but underneath that there are some other reasons, which is actually I'm not sure if it will work, a fear of failure, that this really precious idea that they're committed to in their minds might not actually work in practice, so that can be a big thing. Also, not knowing how to take it forward. So seeing a market opportunity and then actually being able to work out how to go after it is something else. And I think that's one of the things that we've been doing with the Business Growth Club, isn't it? Is helping our members sort of articulate that opportunity and the steps that they can take in order to get there in a really helpful and transformative way.
Yeah, I think that's a great point there, and I think it's sometimes I've used it before, that analogy like rabbit in the headlights. I think people think, well, that's my end point. We know, me and you talked about that you've got to have an end point, otherwise your business route is going to be really convoluted. And then it's about, they just look at that and they don't actually think about the bits in between, and therefore it can become very daunting. And it's strange, isn't it? Those things like no time, no money, it's probably like a smokescreen. For perfectly, I can understand the reasons for doing it. It says actually what it requires is you to break it down, do some work, get invested, and all the rest of it. So do you think sometimes people are actually their own obstacles in this?
Yeah, and I think and I've been there as well. And I can't speak for you, but I'm sure that most of us have been there. That we've had these big, great plans, but they've felt like they're mammoth tasks. And when we get people like Einstein saying, make things as simple as possible and no simpler, or Descartes saying, break down every problem that you can, or every opportunity, into its individual components and work on those. Breaking it down into small bite-sized chunks, doing 5 minutes to 10 minutes every day on something is much better than doing nothing for weeks and then having a bit of a splurge on it and then leaving it and going again. So I think by breaking it down, we can really help, and also it feels better from a time management point of view. But there is that know-how thing as well, and there's something called self-efficacy, which all entrepreneurs need, which I know you know and are very aware of, and that's that sense within us that even if we don't know the answers at the moment, we know that we've got it in us to find out, and we know that we've got it in us to go for it and make it real and make it successful. And I think when you asked about attitude and what's in between, here, then that self-efficacy is a critical thing. All of this, by the way, supported by lots of research that I've done, academic and commercial.
Yeah, that I know with 100% conviction. And I think it's interesting you say, you quote some of those like Einstein and Descartes there. And I think if I throw in also Edison as well, and we talk about
you named it.
Well, I only had him round for tea the other night as well. But it's weird, isn't it? Because people use that word failure and they see it as a negative. And I'll confess, Joe, I've talked to you this before. If I look at the 25 plus years of my own business career, I've made mistakes and I've made mess ups here, bad decision making, doing things wrong. You don't constantly want to do that, but it happens. But if you learn from them and try not to repeat those mistakes there as well, I think it was Edison about when he was asked by a journalist about his 10,000 failures. He didn't actually put them as failures. It's about 10,000 iterations to get to the final answer.
Yeah.
I think he used better words than me, but failure is a natural consequence of any business.
Yeah, it's a step closer to finding the way forward. It's a learning experience. There's a difference between failing over and over again at the same thing, making the same mistake over and over again. We're not talking about that sort of failure. That's not it at all. Yeah. But when you try something and it doesn't work out in the way that you thought it might or the way you'd hoped, that's not necessarily a failure. It's you're just getting information back that something you're doing isn't right. And I think that's why so many people have a growth idea or they have an innovation or a business idea and they don't take it forward because they're frightened it won't work. But you don't get any feedback unless you put some action into what you're doing. You've got to take action to get the feedback, to learn from the feedback, to go again and to get your idea around.
Yeah, I suppose it's the same situation as well. That when you've got a business that maybe decided to go through a different direction. At a worst case scenario, you're talking about a startup with experience, aren't you? So even if you've done something and it hasn't quite worked and you want to move it forward, you've got loads of practical experience that you can bring with you to go into that next phase, whichever direction your business you want to take it.
Yeah, and I think that's why your skills in areas such as business planning and really working through what you are happy to risk from a financial and a time and an other perspective. Think that through and make sure when you test something, you're testing it in an affordable, doable, helpful way, and so that you can actually afford. So when we were doing the Business Growth Club preparations together, we just call it R&D. We don't call it anything other than it's research and development while we're learning what works before we launched, for instance. Yeah, so I think it really helps with people because research and development almost gives permission for things not to go perfectly right, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and I have to say that one of the great things I've learned from you as well is that the people have got all these fuzzy ideas in their head, about how to innovate and actually dump them and to actually become lean. We're going to talk about that in future broadcasts here, but that's sort of the ability, I think, that's synthesis, isn't it? Is even if you've got that, even if you've got these obstacles, even if you've got that mind block, even if you feel slightly wary, it's possible to fix those. Just as it is possible to change your behaviour, it's possible to change your culture and your attitude to your business as well.
Yeah, and getting stuff down on paper, getting stuff out there visually, and then having a cup of tea or even better sleeping on it, coming back at it after a couple of days is brilliant because it puts some distance between you and the thought or the data that was embedded in your mind. So you can actually see things more clearly and you can find solutions more clearly. Plus, by getting it out of your head and onto paper, it unblocks your thought processes so that you can then start to work on the next phase. Whereas carrying it all around in your head just sort of means that the thinking goes round and round inside your head. So it's yeah. And,
now, before we dive deeper and we talk about how important destination is, and once you've got this thing here, I'm just going to share a comment here. So we've got Nadine who's going to join us, and fantastic show. Nadine is a very wise woman. Obviously, she shares that sentiment about it's all about mindset. Now, I know Nadine's a very successful entrepreneur herself. So thank you, Nadine, for sharing that particular comment. And I think that's absolutely right. The start of it, so it's not about, I've got to produce a business plan. It's about that you've got to get right to actually take your business forward here. So very pertinent, obviously very wise comment by Nadine because she agrees with this. So that's going to be a good thing.
So thank you, Nadine. And it's that fixed versus growth mindset, isn't it? The Carol Dweck work around, if we fear we're going to get it wrong, if we fear we're going to make mistakes and look less than perfect, we don't do as much. Whereas if we enjoy the experiment, if we enjoy the experience of learning and seeing where things go, that growth mindset, then we do more. And because we do more and we try more, we attain more success, because we don't attain success by not taking action. So Nadine, you're absolutely with you on that growth mindset.
And the thing is, I don't know what your thoughts are, Joe. I think, in business, it's not a black and white situation saying it's got to be X, it's got to be Y. It's always typically a blend of these things. And I would certainly say in business, you've got to have the combination. There are certain things you do in your business life that are, have got to be fixed. So things like compliance, controls, cash flow planning, all that sort of stuff. That's what I would say. That's got to be as a standard, making sure that you know the people that you're dealing with. If the growth is that thing that says, move me outside of my current situation, how do I look outside? Do I have to do things differently? So it's getting that blend, isn't it, in, and getting that combination.
I think that's absolutely right, and getting systems in place and getting processes in place. And I loved every week, but one of the weeks I particularly loved when we did the Business Growth Club together was actually looking at the process week, which sounds really dull, doesn't it? But processes, good processes that are replicable, are really helpful, because it means that the stuff we need to worry about and be concerned with, we know is in a good place. And then that allows us to go off and do some more innovative, creative stuff. So process actually supports and enables creativity.
I agree, and it was quite interesting actually to hear the delegates when we talked about processes and productivity hacks, about how it was like a line being shone, and I think a lot of them actually took to it very positively, which is good. And it's the same thing, I know we're going off the point slightly about controls. People look at controls and think they're boring, but controls are basically there to make sure you meet your end objective. So they all serve that sort of purpose. So Joe, just a couple of things by the way, if anyone who's joining us, who's coming into me and Joe getting involved into a great conversation about business growth. We both believe it's not an optional thing. It's got to be critical. It doesn't matter what size your business is. So whether you're acorn sized business or whether you're a massive oak type business here, you can't treat it as a debating option. It's got to be done here. And again, I'm just going to share another comment from Nadine at the moment, which is very spot on. And what we're going to do in the last 10 minutes or so, we're going to talk about, okay, let's talk about culture. We know it's really critical. We talk about attitude. For those of you just coming on to the recording or the live, if you type in #replay, me and Joe can pick up any comments that are coming afterwards. We'd love to know that you're out there and listening in. I think that's another great comment that's shared by Nadine. I'm just going to showcase that. Yeah, absolutely. What's your take on that comment there, Joe?
Yeah, I do think it's about patience, and I agree the sales process takes longer. We're in a world, and we have been for a long time actually, where people don't want to be sold to, they want to make choices, they want to know what's available. So as empowered customers, of course they want to choose for themselves. And with everything that, with all the change that we are experiencing, then the sales process does take longer. And I think it's really important to be there for our customers, to go, and our potential customers, and to go at the customer's pace. The customer, we're there to support them. We're all in business to help somebody solve a problem. We're all in business to support somebody with something, whether we bake cakes, sell handbags, or whether we're doing something like an accountancy service, or it doesn't really matter. We're there to help. And it's important we're there and ready to help our customers when they need us and when they want us, and they're ready for that. So I think patience is a really essential point. What's your take on it, Mahmood?
Well, I think two things. Everything you said about business, what we're there for, I'd actually agree with you. I'd probably add a couple of things to say, that also we're there to make money. And by money, I mean profit, because profit is the thing that keeps us going, that gives us better lifestyles. We're there to actually make sure we enjoy our businesses. So therefore, that means you've got to put profit in the pipeline. You've got to be sustainable and have that time. So that's what I would add to that. Another thing is as well, I always find about planning, typically when people put models and plans together, you've got to take into account things take 2 or 3 times longer than you expect. Things cost 2 or 3 times more than you would like them to be. And somewhere along that journey, you will get let down by something or someone. So yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the mindset, and that's part of the makeup of the entrepreneur and the business person, is to have patience and resilience and tenacity.
Yeah, and I noticed, Nadine, you said you're CIPD, so I don't know if you've got an HR business or you're working with people, maybe doing something consultancy related, and it is really important, isn't it, that for the lifetime that we're going to be with our client, that we are about profit, but we go at their pace as well, that we're not persuading people to buy when it's not the right time for them, because of course that just backfires over the long run as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I do think actually where people have they may have a business and they're sort of building it up, maybe whilst they're working, and they've got this sort of business on the side. I think sometimes you use an expression which is, don't treat your business like a hobby, make it into a real business. I think I'm paraphrasing there, but hopefully I've got it broadly right.
Pretty much there.
Yeah, and part of that is a fear of actually selling. And although I'm saying, yes, we've got to be patient and so on, we still have got to sell. And I think sometimes you asked about why people might not be keen to grow the business. Sometimes they're not happy to sell. It feels quite uncomfortable to sell, which is really interesting. I don't know if you come across that or what you think, Mahmood.
No, I'd agree with that, and I don't know if it's a misunderstanding what selling is about. So whether we've got this perception of the window double glazing salesperson or the very cheesy thing, that's a methodology of selling. But the actual process that says, I've got something that's worthwhile, I've got something that's going to transform your life, I've got something that's going to solve your problem, your customer, your user is going to say, brilliant, that's what I'm looking for. If you can make that match, there's the expectation there's going to be a monetary exchange for that. And if it's within their sort of, horrible phrase, value proposition, it's fine. But if you see, I buy X for Y, then that is going to be a very uncomfortable feeling. So I think there's going to be a bit of re-engineering as to what the sales process is all about. Fundamentally, I think you use that phrase very well. It's about a customer, a user has got a problem they want help with. You're here to potentially give them that problem solution, that transformation. If you can gel the two together, the actual getting money for it is easier.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think as well, now that we're doing so much more online, we're advertising more, we're socializing more and networking more online as well. I think that know, like and trust process does take a bit longer, but we've got to build that, but also make sure as part of that process we do ask for the sale at the same time. So it's something I'm always working on as well. I'm not necessarily 100% great at that all the time, but I'm getting better.
Listen, it's like everything in life, isn't it? You can always advise people what to do, and it comes with great confidence and experience here. Applying it to yourself because you don't have the time, that's a different conversation. So I'm probably not the world's best salesperson, but like you said, I understand what you need to do to grow and move that business forward here. So it's a necessary part of that conversation. And if money doesn't feature into your plans, then as you paraphrase very well, then you have got a hobby on your hands.
That's what's been one of the many brilliant things I enjoy about working with you, and I've been enjoying since we worked together in March, is that actually by collaborating, we can play to each other's strengths and sort of, complement each other as well in those areas. So there's some areas I'm not as strong at as you are, and you're really able to sort of complement those. You're strong at everything, Mahmood, but we can leverage those very different strengths and actually create something together that is, it's going to sound really cliche, but it's better than we would have come up with, I think, necessarily on our own. It's different, and we've got these two brains and these two lots of experience, and there's two different ways of doing things that we put them together, and you get
that's the laws of synergy for you, isn't it? But and listen, likewise, Joe, in terms, there's lots of things that we've done on the course, from the creativity, generating those ideas, in terms of breaking down the customer journey, the avatars. I have to say that I've taken that and I thought that's a different way of looking at it. I've not actually thought of it that way. So I've dipped into your skills bucket as well, quite a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, I think for business growth, on our subject for this evening, actually collaborating is a really good way of growing. I think you learn so much. It's important to find the right partner with whom to collaborate.
Yeah.
Because we have found the right partner with each other from a business point of view. But actually, you learn, you can help each other, support, have, bounce ideas around. And also we've got, different customer bases that we can bring together as well. So if you're listening to me and Mahmood talking right now, and you're sort of thinking about growth, then collaboration isn't a bad way forward. If you've got someone or a business that you've got a natural synergy with, then I'd certainly recommend it.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true, Joe. And I think nowadays it's next to impossible. I mean, there's a couple of things I'd like us to wrap up on, and I think that there's a lot that we were going to talk about tonight. We can actually bring forward, we can move forward to next week. But this idea of success, it's your idea of success. It's not somebody else's. It's next to impossible to move your business forward unless you have other people helping you move it forward. You cannot do it by yourself because, by sheer logistics and capacity, you just don't have enough time. You don't have enough skill sets. Even though I'm very good at some things, I'm also very poor at other areas. So I know that I need to get and somehow make it work by recruiting or bringing in outside people to work collectively. And it's the only way I'm going to be able to move the business style forward.
Yeah, I think that's right. And also it builds resilience into the business because it's not all on one person doing absolutely everything. It really does build resilience. It builds creativity. It builds scalability, and all of that, of course, helps drive profitable revenue growth.
Oh, I love that phrase. So in terms of a couple of things here, so in terms of, I suppose, two things. I mean, we started the Business Growth Club. We've done I think it's probably unfair to call it a beta version because I think it's a pretty good first version anyway. But let's call it, we got it out there. We decided to do another one next January, I believe.
That's right.
Okay, so for those who are catching up on replay or listening to this, if the idea of business growth, me and Joe are going to talk about it a bit more over the next few weeks here. We'll add some contact links and all the rest of it. We'd love you to be part of that, Jenny. I think we made a conscious decision, didn't we, not to oversaturate it. So I think we're going to limit the course cohort program to about 30. I think we said we're going to settle on.
That's right, and we go deep and look at businesses in all sorts of different ways, the businesses who are involved, and give them a really thorough, good plan. And we address stuff head on in our program in the Business Growth Club. We look at the numbers and we really help with that forecasting, and we tackle things like what should those KPIs actually be for your business, and then help think that through. So it's just really important that we're keen, aren't we, to put our arms around everybody.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Give them the support and challenge through that process, because it's a good challenge. It's like a nice gritty, crunchy, enjoyable, satisfying challenge. So it's good.
Good. So listen, so next week, I think what I'd like, if you're okay with that, I want us to pick up on this idea of, why bother with business planning. We're going to throw in this idea of lean and agile, and I think we're going to bring forward this idea of destination focus, which is going to be really critical in that. What sort of final thoughts would you want to share with our listeners out there, Joe? What's the 2 or 3 tech bits that they should take away from this?
I think keep growing. Keep even if it's small things, loads and loads of small things. Atomic Habits, James Clear, one of my favourite books. Small things adding up over time make a big difference in the overall trajectory and success of your business. So if those big things seem, expensive or scary or challenging at any point, then do some small things. Keep doing the small things that take you going in that direction. It'll build confidence. You'll test some stuff. You'll learn, but take action, because we don't learn anything from not doing anything. So if you've got a great idea that's burning inside, then take some steps forward just to test it a bit even.
Well, that's a great summary. I'd probably should not add a great deal to that, and I would say, as you said, your business doesn't grow in your head; it grows actually by actually doing it. I would say that yes, mindset is important; it's actually the key thing in your business here. But if you don't think you're actually quite where you want it to be, those are things you can always work on. If you've got the motivation, the desire to do that, do it. And obviously, the other thing I would say is that, carry on, tune in next week, find out more about the Business Growth Club, why it's such a wonderful model to tap into. Joe, listen, thanks very much for joining me tonight here. I know you've had a long day. You would look it, actually. So obviously the green room's done really brilliant things for you. So we'll have a chat afterwards. Anything, and I think as a final thought, just effectively, don't, and I love the way you said it at the beginning, don't throw away the rest of the year. There are still 3 months to go, 3 great months to think about. Deep breath, think about the business direction. Business is not going to stop tomorrow morning. It's not, people are still going to buy stuff. People have still got problems. People have still got things they want sold. And there's a need out there to do that. So it's not RIP business, but if anything, it's a great opportunity that opens up that we want people to tap into.
Great, absolutely. And thank you very much. And we'll be back same time, same place next week, Mahmood.
Joe, listen, thanks very much for your company tonight. I'll have a chat with you in a few minutes, and then we can talk about what we're going to tell everyone about next week.
We can. See you soon.
Everybody, good night. Have a great week. Take care.